much. We all know that new media is the best way for us to connect to our consumers. Social media has changed how we connect to brands. And Kulfi is a brand that was born on social media. It's a brand that is all about connecting to South Asian women. And do you think, Priyanka, a brand like yours could exist without new media?
Kulfi, as you can tell by the name, is all about having fun and being playful with beauty. And the reason that was so important to me for the brand as its central mission was because I grew up not feeling like beauty was fun and playful. I felt that I didn't have permission to participate in beauty. I didn't see people who looked like me represented in beauty. And so if I wanted to make that the central brand mission, how would I launch the brand if not for social media? Because there's no other medium that has democratized voices that can tell us what beauty experiences are like for the everyday consumer. And so as we thought of, like, how do I start Kulfi Beauty, we started with a blog called Kulfi Bites, which was by and for the Gen Z South Asian diaspora. And they were really beautiful stories about specific topics: mental health, wellness, coming out as a South Asian person living in the US, for example. Just these topics that nobody had ever talked about and thought about in the beauty conversation. And the way we could do it was through this digital platform. And now we've evolved those conversations on Instagram, on TikTok, through the video and short form storytelling and building that community. And the best part about social media is that you get instant feedback, both good and bad, as you can imagine. But it holds you accountable. It kind of comes back to the mission of, like, who am I building this for? I'm building it for the little girl like me who's growing up and wanting to see people who look like her, and having that instant feedback and instant love and sometimes accountability makes sure that we're always serving that mission.
And on the other hand, for a legacy brand, Lancome is an 88-year-old brand, I believe. You have over 6 million followers on Instagram, though. How has social media changed the game for legacy luxury brands?
Yeah, I think, we want to be where our consumer is. And the young girl of today, is on social media, and that's giving us a way to connect with our consumers, which was not an option before. And for a brand like Lancome, and, we were joking earlier, when you're digital native, you have one kind of challenge to connect with your consumer on social media. As an 88-year-old, you have a whole different challenge. And what's been, I think, cool about how Lancome has been able to do it is, first of all, by being true to itself. So by holding on to the values of inclusivity, of positive beauty, which is what the brand have stood for the last 80 years, and it's still relevant today. The second one has been by really responding to this two-way conversation that Priyanka mentioned as well. We now have an opportunity to get that real-time feedback for user-generated content, for types of content, working with influencers, which we probably wouldn't have been able to do on our own. So it's really about embracing that. And the third, I think, has been, as Abhik said, about moving from just a value proposition to values proposition. So it also gives us a way to talk about our values, whether they are about inclusivity, about sustainability, about how we embrace science and technology. So it kind of has really opened up that playing field, as it were, for us.
So Lancome has, we talk about how it's about inclusivity. So you've used AI in a really interesting way to reach out to a niche group that perhaps couldn't have that access to beauty. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, how you've used AI? I think that's really interesting.
Absolutely. So there are actually a couple of ways that we've used AI, and some of you might have experienced it through skin analysis, for example, online. But the one that I want to talk to you about today is about how we've used it for women with special needs. So women, there are over 50 million people, who need help in terms of stabilizing, basically, the hand. So it could be about daily activities like eating. And as it happens, that for these women, it's also important to be able to confidently apply lipstick or other types of makeup on their own. And Lancome, just at the beginning of this year, shared this tool called Hapta. And the idea of the tool, the premise of the tool is basically using AI as a stabilizer to enable the use of makeup. And I speak, to especially the women in the room, to be able to have that moment of joy and confidence in the morning and to start your day, with that perfect makeup application, despite the special need, for me is just one of the most sort of positive impacts of AI.
Beautiful. I think what social media really has done has redefined the way we look at what beauty standards are. Masaba, you were born to be on social media, I think. And you have really used social media to celebrate yourself and your roots. How do you think social media has redefined beauty standards?
Well, I think it's a very interesting time that we're living in, both interesting and terrifying at the same time, especially when it comes to social media. But I think what social media has done is that it's democratized beauty, So who are the icons today? Who do you consider beautiful? Who do you look to when it comes to makeup advice? So who are you looking at doing tutorials? So everyone from an ex-makeup artist to somebody who might have disabilities, to somebody who is a micro-influencer, a housewife doing this on the side. I think everyone today is influential and inspiring, and I think that's what social media has done. The downside, of course, always is that we don't know how much of it is real. You don't know when you're looking at someone on social media, is this really them?
The engagement gap.
And yeah, the engagement gap. And I also think that sometimes you set out for the wrong icons. You have somebody who has an idea of sharing, say, a video in a certain manner, but it may not be 100% authentic. It might have 5 fillers, not fillers, filters, but fillers too, filters on it. So I think just the idea of authenticity is missing. I think in some way what's happened is that now your new beauty icons are people you feel like you know them, because celebrities have opened their homes, their vanities, their makeup kits for you. You never had that in the past. So it's truly now you feel like you know these people. You're living in their home. You are wearing the same lipstick that they do. You're trying to do the same winged liner as they are. So I think that's what's happened with social media. But I would still say I think the idea of using it responsibly is missing in a large part.
And of course, the best way to connect to your customer today is the smart usage of social media, as we said. And India is the largest consumer of Instagram. And we spend about 3 hours a day, apparently, looking at our feed. But we generally do it when we're in the car or we're bored. How do you make sure that you stand apart and you really connect? I think that's something you've done really well, Priyanka, with Kulfi Bites. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
I think connection is all about being seen in the content that's put out, right? You see someone embracing a life, like Masaba mentioned, that you feel you're part of. You see the same kind of issues. And, I think back to, there's this iconic image from our first campaign, which I hope you'll all check out immediately after this, which was an image of Saranya, who was our model from the campaign. And a traditional beauty house would have never picked her. Unfortunately, the way that society has told her, and that was her story, was growing up, she didn't feel beautiful because she's plus size, she's deeper skin tone. But when we saw her story was so inspirational because you look at her and you immediately, it's so aspirational. It's relatable, but it's aspirational how sexy she is, how confident she is, how beautiful she is. And so to put that image out there, that's what makes people feel something, right? That's what engagement is. And so I think when we think about what content we put on social media, it's always about how do we emotionally move someone to think differently, be inspired by the content we're putting out, and feel like they see themselves in this, like they see themselves in the content. Going back to our second campaign, we actually did a social media casting call. We posted on Instagram and TikTok. The post went viral. We got 1,000 applications from all over New York. And we picked our models from those 1,000 people. And it was such a beautiful moment when the campaign went live. We also launched at Sephora at the same time. And for all of these people who are part of the community we want to serve, and they are us. You know, we are the community. And for them to see themselves on Sephora, it was just this magical moment where they were talking about the brand more than I was talking about the brand, you know? And I think that, again, creates this connection. And that's how, you know, it's building that two-way conversation.
So it is about also being authentic, and I think we all know, Masaba, you're very authentic on social media, but there is a downside to it.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the negativity and trolling? And I know that's a problem you've had in particular, Masaba, and you've been very upfront in how you dealt with it.
Yeah, my mother thinks I fight too much on social media, and I have to change that this year. But I was telling someone yesterday that my way of dealing with social media hate is just think of it like a video game, like you're in a video game, right? And you try not to get killed, but you also have to earn points, you know? So it's that fine balance between trying to do the right thing and use your voice for just the better good of everyone, and at the same time also not just get crushed under all the hate that comes your way. Because the thing is, we're human beings, we want people to like us. You know, inherently we just want people to like us, and we want people to smile at us. But I think what happens on social media is, one, I think you have to accept that you can never win. You know, everything is right, but everything is also wrong in the same breath. And I feel that, I remember we launched a new product a couple of months back, and there was just so much anxiety in the whole office, not just me. The whole team was just going through this anxiety because, I don't know, there was some noise about just the product, and there was some stress about it. And I remember I couldn't sleep that night. So I think it was almost like I assumed the reaction or the hate before it came my way, and then there was no hate. So I think what's happened is we're also starting to live life with so much caution. And I think that really curbs creativity. I think when you're thinking of a campaign or you're thinking of a new product, you almost think, am I going to offend someone? Is this going to piss someone off? Are they going to dislike me? Or is this just going to be a product that everyone likes? But yeah, the moral of the story is you can't win, and you're in Super Mario, so you're in a video game. Yeah.
I want to add that if you're offending someone, you're probably doing something right. Because you're challenging norms, you're challenging the ways people have seen things, and that's what offends sometimes.
That's true. That's true. But just to deal with those 2-3 hours of, am I doing the right thing, I think can be
We're all
tough.
human.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's kind of sad in a way, but sometimes you get the feeling that people are more focused on looking for what's wrong rather than what's right. You know, and that maybe is the downside to social media, that part of anonymity, what you would not be willing to say to someone to their face, you're willing to say on commentary. But, you know, it has, I think for some brands, if I maybe come back to it, sometimes, you know, social media does become the mirror to the brand and, you know, help open the eyes of individuals, of companies to what's possible. So, yeah.
I think, I mean, not just Instagram, I think today one of the most important tools actually is OTT for brands like all of yours. And the role of OTT is really interesting. I know that, you know, we all now talk about dressing like Emily in Paris. Masaba, tell us how OTT has impacted your brand with your show.
Well, when we had the Netflix show come out, which was in 2020, August 2020, it obviously, I think we didn't know what hit us because one, everyone was at home and everyone was just consuming content which was happy and light and made them feel good. I think what it did for us was that one, it opened up so many more doors. You know, you suddenly had somebody who didn't know that I had a brand, but they kind of knew me. Because of my parents, they suddenly said, oh my God, she has a brand, you know? So that really opened up. And I think that's the challenge all of us might face, right? After a point on social media, you hit a wall. Okay. You're not engaging a new set of consumers. You're just talking to the same audience over and over again. So I think that's what the Netflix show did. It opened up a new, I would say, doorway to commerce in some shape or form. It also solidified and I think just made us stronger as an e-commerce brand, because I remember that was the time we were trying to become stronger on just as an online story, you know. People always assumed we didn't have an e-commerce shop. They always thought we are a brick and mortar brand, but I think that's something that opened up as well. But and also, of course, in some way, the story gave away that you know, running a brand, owning a brand, sustaining a brand is no easy feat. You know, I think so. It opened up the world of design and what design houses really do to the layperson who just thought, you know, we're just having a great time and sipping green tea and, you know, creating beautiful outfits. So I think the reality of that came to the front as well. But yes, I think it also gave me the confidence to launch Love Child, which is my beauty brand. And I did that right after season 2 came out in 2021. I tried to time it very, very meticulously, but of course I was off by a couple of days. But yeah, it really just helped us reach people who didn't know we existed. Yeah.
So if the last few years were about digital commerce, I think the next few years are going to be about social commerce. I think a report by Bain & Company said that social commerce has the potential to grow between 16 to 20 billion in the next 5 years. So how is that going to change storytelling? And I know that's something you're looking at very closely, Rameet,
I think so. For social commerce, for us, it's a big focus. I think that's where we see the future of e-commerce going. You mentioned earlier that Indians are the heaviest users of Instagram. We're also the heaviest users of WhatsApp. Some of the models that we've been looking at in social commerce, so one of them has been live streaming. I think maybe still sort of an emerging platform in India, but in many other countries, especially in China, we are now doing up to 60% of our e-commerce, you know, through live streaming, especially in big moments. I know, Masaba, you mentioned to us as well that WhatsApp is a key platform for you. So that's an area that we definitely expect is going to continue to grow, and there are going to be new business models within that. So one of the newest ones that we are testing out is personalized live streaming. With all of this, clutter of content, what's really important is to be able to answer to the needs of the unique consumer, and that personalization, so not one-to-many, but one-to-one, is one of the new frontiers of social commerce for us.
So before we end, I just have one question to ask you all. We've been talking about new media, but as many of you know, I'm born in traditional media. So I'd like to ask, what is the role of traditional media today?
Okay, well, I can talk about it more from the point of view of, I think, the combination of the two. So I think it's for us, you know, the traditional media, and I'm sorry, I'm expanding it also to include stores, not just print. And one of the things that, you know, I've learned personally over the last few years is that the most powerful experiences are the ones where you can really combine the new media with the traditional media and with stores. And I think, you know, we love shopping, and that experiential element that traditional media brings, it won't go away. It'll just get reinvented with new media.
I'm very happy to hear traditional media is not going to go away. Thank you so much for your time. I think you all spoke really well. I wish we had longer, but thank you so much. I hope you all learned something from that, and do follow all of their brands on social media because they do an incredible job.